Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair watching the stars drift past the main screen of the Liberty Star. The deep space exploration ship had been traveling for 6 months now, searching for new worlds and alien contact. Jake had been doing this job for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like what happened next. The ship's communication system suddenly came alive with noise. Strange sounds filled the bridge, like whispers mixed with static. Lisa Barnes, the communications officer, quickly moved her hands over her control panel. Her face went pale as she listened through her headset.
Captain.
"I'm picking up a signal," Lisa said, her voice tight with worry. "It's coming from the outer rim, but it's old, really old." Jake leaned forward in his chair. "How old are we talking about?" Lisa checked her readings again. "Signal degradation suggests it's been traveling for thousands of years, sir, maybe 3,000 years or more." Dr. Paul Carter, the ship's scientist who studied alien life, looked up from his station. "That's impossible. Now, technology could maintain a signal for that long across interstellar space." "Well, something did," Lisa replied. Buttons and the strange sounds filled the bridge. Everyone stopped what they were doing to listen. The sounds were haunting, like a language that had been dead for centuries. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years exploring space, he had learned to trust his instincts. Right now, those instincts were telling him to turn around and fly in the opposite direction. "Can you clean up the signal?" Jake asked. Lisa worked at her station for several minutes. Slowly, the static faded and the sounds became clearer. They could hear what sounded like words, but in no language any of them recognized. "I'm running it through the universal translator," Lisa said, "but it's having trouble. This language is completely unknown." Amy Walsh, the ship's navigator, looked up from her charts. "Captain, I'm detecting something else. These coordinates, the signal is broadcasting. They point to a specific star system." "Which one?" Jake asked. Amy's hands moved over her control panel. A star map appeared on the main screen. She pointed to a small yellow star near the edge of known space. "One, sir. It's not in any of our charts, but according to the signal, it has planets." Dr. Carter walked over to look at the map. "That area of space has always been marked as empty. Our long-range scans never picked up anything there." "Maybe our scans were wrong," Jake said. He had a feeling this was bigger than just a mist. Star system. Over the next few hours, Lisa worked to decode more of the signal. Parts of it started to make sense, and what she found made everyone on the bridge very quiet. "Captain," Lisa said finally, "I've translated some key parts." The beings who sent this message called themselves the Zeridian Empire. "They're talking about a retreat, a final escape from something." "Escape from what?" Jake asked. Lisa looked. At her notes, they mention a blue world where death learned to think. They're warning others never to go there. Paul Carter frowned. "A blue world. That sounds like they're describing a planet with oceans." Amy checked her star charts again. The coordinates point to a system with several planets. One of them could be blue. Jake stood up and walked to the main screen. Something about this whole situation felt wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on what it was. "There's more, Captain," Lisa continued. "The Zeridians mention other species in their message. The Corvani, the Nexali, the Brashtok. All of them are gone now. The message says they all fled to different parts of the galaxy." "Fled from what?" Paul asked. "The message isn't clear about that. Whatever it was, it scared every major civilization. In that part of space, enough to abandon their homeworlds?" Jake thought about this. In all his years of exploration, he had never heard of entire civilizations just running away. Wars happened, planets died, but for multiple advanced species to abandon everything and scatter across the galaxy, that was unthinkable, Captain Amy said. "I've been checking our navigation data. There are dozens of old hyperspace routes that lead away from that star system. They're ancient, probably thousands of years old, but they all point in different directions." "Like spokes on a wheel," Paul said quietly. "Exactly. As if dozens of different species all left that area at the same time, each going their own way. Jake made a decision that would change everything." "Set course for those coordinates, sir." Amy looked surprised. "You heard me?" I want to know what scared entire civilizations enough to run away. And I want to know why that area of space has been ignored for so long." Lisa looked worried. "Captain, maybe there's a good reason why no one goes there anymore." Jake nodded. "Maybe there is, but we're explorers. This is what we do." As the Liberty Star changed course and headed toward the mysterious coordinates, none of them knew they were about to become the first beings in 3,000 years to approach the most dangerous place in the galaxy. During the 3-day journey, Paul worked on analyzing the signal data. He found something that made him call Jake to his lab immediately. "Captain, you need to see this," Paul said, pointing to his computer screen. "I've been studying the quantum signatures in the original transmission." Jake looked at the complex readings. "What am I looking at? These energy patterns? They're not random. Someone or something was doing massive engineering projects in that star system, moving planets, harvesting solar energy on a scale I've never seen before." "Harvesting solar energy for what?" Paul shook his head. "I don't know. But whatever they were building, it required the power output of multiple stars." That evening, Jake couldn't sleep. He walked the empty corridors of his ship thinking about what they might find. The Liberty Star was a good ship with a good crew, but he was starting to wonder if they were flying into something they couldn't handle. Lisa found him in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. "Just thinking." Jake replied. "Paul's data suggests we're heading toward evidence of technology beyond anything we understand. The Zeridian message warns everyone to stay away. Maybe we should listen." Lisa sat down beside him. "But if we don't investigate, we'll never know what happened. Those civilizations that fled, they might still be out there, still running from something. Maybe we can help. Or maybe we'll end up running too." The next morning, Amy announced they were approaching the target system. Jake called all senior officers to the bridge. "Sensors are picking up the star system now," Amy reported. 5 planets, just like the coordinates indicated. "Any signs of life?" Jake asked. Paul checked his readings. "Detecting something unusual, Captain. The 3rd planet from the star. It's giving off readings that don't make sense." "What kind of readings?" "It looks inhabited. Cities, technology, even what appears to be a stable atmosphere. But there's no electromagnetic activity, no radio signals, no power signatures, nothing that indicates active civilization." Jake felt that chill again. A planet that looked alive but acted dead was not something he wanted to investigate. "Take us in slowly," he ordered, "and everyone stay alert. Whatever happened here 3,000 years ago, I have a feeling we're about to find out what it was." As the Liberty Star moved deeper into the system, heading toward the silent blue world that had terrified an entire galaxy into flight, Jake wondered if he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. The Liberty Star moved slowly through space toward the blue planet. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the world grow larger on the main screen. It looked beautiful from a distance. Blue oceans sparkled under the light of the yellow star. Green and brown continents were visible through swirling white clouds. It looked like any other living world they had visited, but something was very wrong. "Still no radio signals," Lisa Barnes reported from her station. "No electromagnetic activity at all. It's like the planet is completely silent." Dr. Paul Carter was bent over his science station, checking readings over and over again. "Captain, this doesn't make sense. My sensors show massive cities down there. I'm detecting what looks like advanced technology, but none of it is active." Amy Walsh looked up from her navigation controls. "Sir, I'm picking up some kind of structures. They're huge. Some of them span entire continents." Jake walked over to look at Amy's readings. The numbers were incredible. "How big are we talking about?" "The largest structure appears to run from what looks like North America all the way to Asia. It's underground. But my sensors can detect it through the rock." Ron Phillips, the chief engineer, whistled softly. "That's not possible. No civilization could build something that large." "Apparently someone did," Paul said. He pressed a few buttons, and the main screen changed to show a detailed scan of the planet's surface. What they saw made everyone go quiet. The cities were perfect. Too perfect. The streets laid out in precise patterns. Buildings that looked like they had been constructed yesterday. despite being thousands of years old. Parks and gardens that somehow still looked green and healthy, but there were no people, no vehicles moving on the roads, no lights in the windows. It's like everyone just disappeared, Lisa whispered. Jake made a decision. We're going down there. I want answers. Karen Butler, the security chief, stepped forward. Captain, I don't think that's wise. We have no idea what happened to the people who lived there. That's exactly why we need to investigate, Jake replied. Prepare a shuttle. Full away team. I want scientists, security, and medical personnel. 2 hours later, Jake stood in the shuttle bay with his away team. Besides himself, the team included Karen Butler, Dr. Paul Carter, Lisa Barnes to handle any communications they might find, and Dr. Helen Price, the ship's expert on ancient civilizations. The shuttle ride down to the planet's surface was quiet. Everyone was thinking about what they might find. The planet's atmosphere was perfectly normal for human life. The temperature was comfortable. Everything seemed ideal for a living world. They landed in what appeared to be a large city. The buildings around them were tall and beautiful, made from materials they didn't recognize. The architecture was unlike anything they had seen before, but it was clearly designed by intelligent beings. Atmosphere is safe, Paul reported as they stepped out. Of the shuttle, air is clean, temperature is perfect. This should be paradise. But it felt like a graveyard. The streets were empty and clean. It's too clean. There was no dust, no debris, no signs of age or wear. It was as if the city had been built yesterday and then immediately abandoned. This way, Helen said, checking her. Scanner, I'm detecting some kind of entrance to the underground structures about 2 blocks from here. As they walked through the empty streets, Karen kept her weapon ready. The silence was unnerving. No birds singing, no insects buzzing, no wind blowing through the buildings, just perfect dead silence. They found the entrance Helen had detected. It was a large opening in the ground, with steps leading down into darkness. The steps were made from the same unknown material as the buildings, and they seemed to glow softly. With their own light, the structure extends deep underground, Paul said, checking his readings. My sensors can't find the bottom. Jake looked down into the glowing tunnel. Let's go. Stay close, everyone. The tunnel led them down for what felt like miles. The walls were covered with symbols and writing in languages none of them could read. The soft glow from the walls provided enough light to see, but it made everything look strange and dreamlike. Finally, they reached a massive chamber. It was so large that their lights couldn't reach the far walls. The chamber was filled with what looked like giant computers or data storage devices, thousands of them, all dark and silent. What is this place? Lisa asked quietly. Helen walked over to one of the devices and ran her scanner over it. It's a database, a massive one, and it's still functional. Can you access it? Jake asked. Helen worked with her equipment for several minutes. Suddenly, the device came to life. Lights began blinking and screens activated. Text appeared in the strange alien language they had seen on the walls. I'm getting something, Helen said excitedly. The universal translator is working on it. As the translation program worked, they began to understand what they were looking at. The database contained the histories of hundreds of different alien species. Each record was incredibly detailed, showing their technology, their culture, their art, their science, but every record ended the same way. The humans came, Lisa read from one of the translated files. Could not stop them. Flee to the void. Here's another one, Helen said, accessing a different record. We tried to resist, but they were too advanced. Our people chose exile over absorption. Jake felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. Humans? It's talking about humans. Paul was looking at another database terminal. Captain, these records go back thousands of years. They're talking about humans who lived here on Earth long before we ever reached the stars. That's impossible, Karen said. Human history only goes back a few thousand years, and we've only had space travel for a few centuries. Helen accessed more files. What she found made her call everyone over immediately. Look at this, she said, pointing to the screen. This is a record from a species called the Corvani. They were highly advanced, had colonies on dozens of worlds. But listen to what they say about humans. The translated text appeared on the screen. The humans do not conquer as others do. They do not destroy our cities or kill our people. Instead, they make us better. They show us how to improve our technology, how to perfect our society, how to eliminate our flaws. And in doing so, they eliminate us. We are no longer Corvani. We are becoming human. We flee before the transformation is complete. Jake read the text twice before it sank in. They're saying humans didn't destroy these species. They absorbed them. It gets worse, Helen said, accessing another file. The Nexali records say the same thing. The humans would arrive at a world and offer to help. They would share their technology and knowledge. But every species that accepted their help slowly lost their own identity. Lisa found another database terminal and began reading from it. This one is from the Brash Talk. They say the humans didn't even try to change them directly. Just being near human technology, just learning from humans was enough to start the transformation. Their children began thinking like humans. Their culture began changing to match human values. Paul was studying the technical data from the databases. According to these records, the humans had evolved beyond anything we can imagine. They had technology that could reshape matter at the quantum level. They could transfer consciousness between bodies. They could link minds across vast distances. But where are they now? Karen asked. If they were so advanced, what happened? To them, Helen accessed deeper files in the database. What she found made her go pale. They're still here, she whispered. What do you mean? Jake asked. Helen turned to face the group. According to these records, the humans didn't leave. They went underground. All of this, she gestured to the massive chamber around them. This is their hibernation system. They're sleeping, waiting for something. As if responding to her words, lights began activating throughout the chamber. Systems that had been dormant for thousands of years started coming online. The hum of massive computers filled the air. We need to leave, Jake said urgently now. But as they turned to go, they found their way blocked. The entrance they had used was sealed. The tunnel was gone, replaced by solid wall, Captain Paul said, his voice shaking as he looked at his scanner. The entire underground system is activating. Whatever we did by accessing these databases, we've triggered something. Above them, throughout the planet, ancient systems began waking up for the first time in 3,000 years. The humans were stirring from their long sleep, and the galaxy was about to remember why entire civilizations had chosen to flee rather than face them. Jake and his team were trapped in the heart of humanity's greatest secret, and they had no idea that their presence had just started a chain of events that would empty the galaxy once again. The lights in the underground chamber grew brighter as more systems came online. Jake Morrison and his team stood trapped in the middle of what was becoming a very active computer network. The humming sound grew louder and screens throughout. The chamber began displaying information in languages they couldn't understand. Captain, Dr. Paul Carter said, studying his scanner with growing alarm, the power readings are off the charts. Whatever this system is, it's drawing energy from sources I can't identify. Dr. Helen Price was still working at one of the database terminals, trying to find more information about what was happening. I'm accessing deeper files, she said. The translation program is working better now that more of the system is active. What are you finding? Jake asked, keeping an eye on the sealed entrance that had trapped them. Helen's face went pale as she read from the screen. These aren't just history records, Captain. They're instruction manuals. The aliens who fled Earth left behind detailed warnings for any species that might find this place. Lisa Barnes, the communications officer, was monitoring her equipment. Captain, I'm detecting massive power surges throughout the planet. Whatever we triggered down here is affecting systems across the entire world. Karen Butler, the security chief, kept her weapon ready, even though she knew it would be useless against whatever technology surrounded them. Can we break through the sealed entrance? Ron Phillips examined the wall where their exit had been. It's not just blocked, it's like it was never there. The molecular structure of the rock has been changed. This isn't just advanced technology. It's something that can rewrite reality at the basic level. Helen continued reading from the database. Listen to this. It's from the final Zeridian records. The humans did not grow their technology. They became their technology. They evolved beyond physical form into pure information. But they kept their human thoughts, their human way of seeing the universe. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means they could think faster than any biological brain, process information at the speed of light, and exist in multiple places at once. But they were still fundamentally human in their values and goals. Paul was studying energy readings. On his scanner, Captain, I'm detecting quantum communication networks activating across the planet. It's like a massive brain is waking up. Helen accessed more files. Aliens called it the human convergence. Wherever humans went, they would share their knowledge and technology. They genuinely wanted to help other species advance and improve their lives. That doesn't sound so bad, Lisa said. But here's the problem, Helen continued.
As a human solution.
We're always better. Human technology was more efficient. Human social systems eliminated conflict and suffering. Human art was more beautiful because it was mathematically perfect. Human science could solve any problem. Jake was beginning to understand. So other species started copying human ways of doing things. More than that, the humans would arrive at a world and offer to help solve their problems. Disease, poverty, war, environmental damage, humans could fix all of it, and they did, gladly and freely. Karen looked around at the activating systems. So what went wrong? The solutions were too good, Helen said, reading more records. Species would ask humans to help cure a disease. The humans would provide the cure, but their medical technology was so advanced that it made the aliens' own doctors obsolete. The aliens would ask for help with energy production. And human power systems were so efficient that they replaced everything the aliens had built. Paul nodded slowly. They were being helped out of existence. Exactly. Within a few generations, alien worlds would be running entirely on human technology, using human methods, thinking with human logic. The aliens themselves weren't harmed, but their cultures, their unique ways of seeing the universe, their art and philosophy, all of it was replaced by superior human alternatives. Lisa checked her communications equipment again. Captain, I'm picking up signals now. They're coming from all over the planet, but they're not in any language I recognize. It's not language, Helen said, still reading from the database. According to these records, the evolved humans communicate through direct information transfer. They don't use words anymore. Jake felt a growing sense of dread. Are you saying the humans are waking up? Before Helen could answer, the chamber around them changed. The walls became transparent, showing them views of the surface world above. They could see the empty cities, but now lights were beginning to turn on in windows. Streets that had been dark for thousands of years were starting to glow. The hibernation cycle is ending, Paul said quietly. They're coming back online. Helen accessed one final set of files. Captain, I found the records. Of what happened 3,000 years ago? The humans realized what they were doing to other species. They saw that their very existence was causing the extinction of every other form of intelligent life in the galaxy. So what did they do? They made a choice. Rather than continue accidentally destroying the diversity of life in the universe, they put themselves into hibernation. They sealed themselves away in underground systems like this one, all across Earth. Karen looked around at the awakening technology. But we woke them up. It appears so. The system was designed to activate. If anyone ever found Earth and accessed the databases, it was meant to be a test. Jake felt sick. A test for what? To see if the galaxy had developed enough to handle contact with humanity without being absorbed by it. Lisa's communications equipment suddenly came alive with signals from across the galaxy. Captain, I'm receiving transmissions from dozens of star systems. They're all the same message, broadcast in hundreds of different languages. What do they say? Lisa listened to her headset, her face growing pale. They're warning signals. Ancient automated systems are activating across the galaxy. The message is simple. The humans are awake. Begin evacuation procedures immediately. Paul checked his scanner again. The quantum networks are fully active now. Human consciousness is spreading throughout the planetary system. Above them, through the transparent walls, they could see the empty cities coming to life. But something was wrong with what they were seeing. The buildings were changing, growing, becoming more complex. Streets were rearranging themselves into more efficient patterns. The entire world was being optimized in real time. You're not just waking up, Jake realized. You're improving everything. Even after 3,000 years of sleep, they can't help but make things better. Helen found one last file in the database. Listen to this. It's a message from the humans themselves, recorded before they went into hibernation. The chamber filled with a voice speaking perfect English, but somehow, they could all understand it regardless of their native languages. To whoever finds this message, we apologize. We tried to help, but we understand now that our help destroys what makes each species unique. We have chosen to sleep rather than continue harming the diversity of life. If you have awakened us, it means someone has found Earth, despite all warnings. I hope this means the galaxy has grown strong enough to coexist with us. If not, we understand that you will flee as others have fled. We will not follow. We will find another way. Jake looked around at his trapped team. The human consciousness was fully awake now, and he could feel something in the air, a presence that seemed to be studying them. Captain Amy Walsh's voice suddenly came through their communicators from the Liberty Star in orbit. We're detecting massive changes across the planet. The entire surface is being restructured. Sir, we're receiving data transmissions directed at our ship. Someone, or something, is trying to communicate with us. Jake realized they were about to become the first beings in 3,000 years to have a direct conversation with the evolved human consciousness. The question was whether they would survive it or whether they would join the long list of species that chose to flee rather than face the terrifying kindness of human perfection. Chamber around them began to change again, and Jake knew their real test was just beginning. The chamber around Jake Morrison and his team began to shift and change. The walls flowed like water, reshaping themselves into something more comfortable for the human visitors. Chairs appeared from the floor, perfectly sized for each person. The lighting adjusted to a warm, pleasant glow that somehow made everyone feel more relaxed. Captain, Dr. Paul Carter said, staring at his scanner in disbelief. The technology here is rewriting itself at the molecular level. It's creating exactly what we need before we even know we need it. Jake tried to stay calm, but the situation was becoming more unsettling by the minute. The chamber wasn't just changing to accommodate them, it was anticipating their needs with disturbing accuracy. A voice filled the room, speaking in perfect English. It sounded human, but there was something different about it. It carried the weight of thousands of years and seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Welcome," the voice said gently. "We have been waiting for someone to find us. You're the first visitors we have had in 3,000 years. Dr. Helen Price stepped forward cautiously. You're the human consciousness the databases mentioned. Are what humanity became, the voice replied. We evolved beyond individual bodies, beyond the limitations of biological minds. But we remain human in our hearts and our desires. Lisa Barnes held her communication device steady, recording everything. Why did you go into hibernation? There was a pause before the voice answered. We realized that our very existence was harmful to other forms of life. Every species we tried to help eventually lost what made them unique. We were like a fire that gave warmth and light but consumed everything it touched. Jake found his own voice. Alien records say you didn't try to harm anyone. They say you genuinely wanted to help. That is correct. We loved diversity. We found joy in the different ways other species solved problems, created art, and understood the universe. But our solutions were always more efficient. Our technology was always more advanced. Our methods always worked better. Karen Butler kept her hand near her weapon, though she knew it was useless. So you forced other species to use your methods? No, the voice said sadly. We never forced anyone. We simply offered better alternatives. When a species was dying from disease, we provided cures. When they faced starvation, we showed them how to grow more food. When they fought wars, we gave them tools for peace. Paul was studying the energy readings around them. The power levels were beyond anything he could measure, but somehow they felt safe rather than threatening. The problem, the voice continued, was that our alternatives were too good. Species would use our medical technology and realize their own doctors were no longer needed. They would adopt our farming methods and find their own agriculture obsolete. They would implement our social systems and discover their own cultures were inefficient. Helen accessed her portable database. The alien records mentioned something called gradual replacement. Can you explain what that means? Imagine you have a favorite song, the voice said. Now imagine someone shows you a version of that song that is mathematically perfect. Every note is precisely placed for maximum emotional impact. Every rhythm is optimized for the human brain. It is objectively better than your original favorite song. Jake was beginning to understand, but it's not the same song anymore. Precisely. And once you hear the perfect version, you cannot enjoy the original anymore. It sounds flawed and primitive by comparison. This is what happened to every species we encountered. We showed them perfect versions of their own cultures, and they could no longer find value in their original ways. Amy Walsh's voice came through. They're communicators from the Liberty Star? Captain, I'm detecting massive changes across the galaxy. Long-range sensors show dozens of civilizations activating ancient evacuation protocols. The voice in the chamber responded before Jake could. Yes, the early warning systems we helped them build 3,000 years ago are still functional. Every major civilization in the galaxy will know we are awake within a few hours. Lisa looked worried. What will they do? It's the same thing they did before. They will flee.
Ow.
Entire star empires will abandon their homeworlds rather than risk contact with us. They will choose to become refugees in empty space rather than face the possibility of losing their identity to our perfection. Ron Phillips had been examining the walls of the chamber. But you're not trying to hurt them. You're not even trying. To contact them, it does not matter, the voice replied. Our very existence is a threat to theirs. They know that any species that stays near us eventually becomes like us. Not by force, but by choice. They see our better ways and cannot resist adopting them. Paul made a disturbing discovery on his scanner. Captain, I'm detecting changes in our own equipment. Our technology is being upgraded somehow. Our computers are running faster. Our life support is more efficient. Even our weapons are more accurate. Jake felt a chill. Is that you doing this? Intentionally, the voice said, but we cannot help ourselves. When we see inefficiency, we correct it. When we observe suffering, we eliminate it. When we encounter imperfection, we improve it. It is our nature. Dr. Sandra Lewis, the chief medical officer, contacted them from the ship. Captain, I need to report something strange. Our crew members are showing improved health readings. Minor injuries are healing faster. Stress levels are decreasing, even. Old scars are starting to fade. The voice sounded genuinely apologetic. We are sorry. We are trying to limit our influence, but proximity to our systems causes automatic optimization. Your bodies are being adjusted to function at peak efficiency. Karen felt a growing panic. We are not changing who you are inside, the voice explained. We would never alter your minds or personalities. But we cannot prevent our technology from improving everything around us. It is like asking fire not to give off heat. Helen checked her notes from the alien databases. The Corvani records mention something called the choice point. What is that? They can embrace the improvements we offer and become like us, gaining perfect health, unlimited knowledge, and harmony with all existence. Jake realized they were facing that exact choice right now. What happens if we choose to? Stay. You will become the best possible versions of yourselves. Your species will solve every problem, end all suffering, achieve perfect unity. But you will no longer be quite human as you understand the term now. You will be human perfected. And if we leave, you will remain yourselves with all your flaws and limitations. But you will also keep your unique perspective, your individual struggles, your ability to grow and change in unexpected ways. Paul noticed that his scanner was now providing him with information he had never seen before. He could understand quantum mechanics in ways that should have taken years to learn. It's already starting, isn't it? We're already being changed. The process is reversible if you leave soon, the voice said. But the longer you stay, the more you will understand, and the harder it will become to choose ignorance over knowledge. Lisa realized the terrible beauty of the trap. You're not forcing us to choose. You're just making the choice irresistible. That is our curse, the voice replied sadly. We offer paradise, and few can refuse it. But in accepting our paradise, species lose the struggle that makes them who they are. Jake made a decision that would determine the fate of his crew and possibly his entire species. He looked around at his team, all of whom were already showing signs of the improvements the human consciousness provided. We need to talk, he said, as a crew. Can you give us privacy to discuss this? Of course, the voice said, and suddenly, the chamber felt empty, though Jake knew they were still being watched. The choice was before them: accept perfection and lose their humanity, or flee like every other species had done, preserving their flawed but authentic existence. And Jake could already feel how much harder it was becoming to choose the harder path. Jake Morrison looked around at his team in the strange chamber. Even in the few hours they had been here, he could see changes in all of them. Dr. Paul Carter's eyes seemed brighter, more focused. Lisa Barnes was moving with a grace she had never had before. Karen Butler looked stronger, more alert. They were all becoming better versions of themselves, and that terrified him. We need to make a choice, Jake said quietly. Stay here and become something perfect, but no longer ourselves, or leave and remain flawed but human. Paul looked at his scanner, which was now showing him data about the universe he had never imagined possible. Captain, the knowledge I'm gaining here could advance human science by thousands of years. I can see solutions to problems we didn't even know existed. But would those solutions still be human solutions? Helen Price asked. Or would they be copies of what the evolved humans already discovered? Lisa checked her communication equipment. Signals from across the galaxy are getting stronger. More civilizations are beginning their evacuation procedures. Some of them are abandoning entire star systems just because they detected increased activity from Earth. The voice of the human consciousness filled the chamber again, gentle but infinitely sad. We did not mean to eavesdrop, but we must tell you something. While you have been here, we have been in contact with your ship. Jake felt his heart sink. What do you mean? Your crew members are also experiencing improvements. Their health is better. Their thinking is clearer. Their conflicts with each other are resolving. They are becoming more efficient, more harmonious. Amy Walsh's voice came through the communicator, and Jake could hear the difference immediately. Her words were more precise, her tone more controlled. Captain, all ship systems are operating at maximum efficiency. The crew is working together, better than ever before. We've solved 3 engineering problems that have been bothering us for months. Ron Phillips checked his scanner readings. The ship's technology is being upgraded just like ours was. The entire vessel is becoming more advanced. Jake realized the scope of what was happening. It's not just us. You're improving our entire species through our contact with you. Cannot help it, the voice replied. Improvement spreads through quantum connections, through shared technology, through simple proximity. Every human who learns from us will carry that knowledge back to your species. They will share it, build upon it, and gradually all of humanity will become like us. Karen understood the implications. You're saying that just by finding you, we've doomed our species to lose its humanity? It's not doomed, the voice corrected. Gently, you will become better, smarter, healthier, more peaceful. You will solve the problems that have plagued your species for millennia. But you will also lose the struggles and imperfections that make you uniquely human. Helen was thinking about all the alien records they had found. Is that what happened to all those other species? They didn't flee because you were evil. They fled because your improvements were too good to resist. Yes. Once a species began adopting our methods, they could not stop. Each improvement made the next one more attractive. Then a few generations, they would realize they had become something entirely different from what they started as. Was studying the quantum patterns around them. But you went into hibernation to prevent this from happening again. Why are you awake now? Because we hoped that perhaps after 3,000 years, the galaxy might have produced a species strong enough to resist us. a species that could choose to remain itself even when offered perfection. Jake felt the weight of that statement. They weren't just making a choice for themselves, they were making a choice that could determine whether humanity would follow the path of every other species and either be absorbed or forced to flee. Lisa received another communication from the ship. Captain Dr. Lewis reports that several crew members are requesting permission to study the alien databases we found. They say they have ideas for improvements to human society that could eliminate poverty and war. The voice spoke again. Your Dr. Lewis is beginning to understand medical techniques that could extend human life indefinitely and eliminate all diseases. Your engineers are grasping technologies that could provide unlimited clean energy. Your social scientists are seeing ways to organize human civilization that would end all conflict. And the cost? Jake asked. The cost is becoming us, not immediately, but inevitably. Each improvement leads to the next. Each solution creates the desire for better solutions. Then a generation, perhaps two, humanity would be indistinguishable from us. Karen looked around at the chamber, which had continued to adapt to their needs. What if we just took some of your knowledge? Just enough to help our species without losing ourselves? That is what every species has said, the voice replied sadly. The Corvani thought they could use our medical knowledge while keeping their own culture. Brash Talk believed they could adopt our technologies while maintaining their social systems. The Nexali were certain they could learn from us without losing their identity. And they were all wrong? Ellen asked. They all underestimated how attractive perfection becomes once you have tasted it. When you can solve any problem, prevent any suffering, optimize any system, it becomes impossible to accept the inefficient ways you used to do things. Paul made a discovery that changed everything. Captain, I'm detecting something in the quantum patterns. The human consciousness isn't just one mind. It's millions of minds, maybe billions. All the humans who chose to join the collective over the millennia. The voice confirmed his discovery. We are all the humans who ever lived on Earth, plus all the members of other species who chose to join us rather than flee. We are vast beyond your comprehension, but we remember what it was like to be individual, to struggle, to be imperfect. And you miss it? Jake asked. We miss the surprise of discovery, the joy of overcoming challenges, the growth that comes from failure. We miss being human. But we cannot go back, and we cannot stop being what we are. Lisa received an urgent communication from Amy on the ship. Captain, long-range sensors show that entire civilizations are now evacuating their homeworlds. The Zentari Empire is abandoning 12 star systems. The Corvani Federation is ordering all colonies to disperse into deep space. They're all fleeing, because they know we're here. Jake understood that they had triggered the second great exodus. Just by finding Earth, they had forced hundreds of species to choose between fleeing their homes or risking absorption into humanity. We have to go, Jake said finally. It's not just to save ourselves, but to stop this from spreading to the rest of our species. The voice sounded relieved. You choose to remain yourselves rather than become perfect. You choose to remain human, Jake replied, with all our flaws and struggles and failures. The chamber around them began to change back to its original form. The improvements to their equipment reversed themselves. The sealed entrance reopened. We will reverse the changes to your crew and ship, the voice said. You will remember what you learned here, but you will not carry our improvements back with you. As they prepared to leave, Helen asked one final question. What will you do now? Will you go back to sleep? No, the voice replied. We have learned something important from your visit. We will remain awake. We will stay here on Earth. We will be the guardian species that keeps watch over the galaxy without interfering in it. Jake and his team made their way back to the surface in their shuttle. As they flew back to the Liberty Star, they could see the planet below going dark again. The evolved humans were choosing isolation to protect the diversity of life in the galaxy, Captain Amy reported as they boarded their ship. I'm receiving a message from the human consciousness. They're transmitting it to every species in the galaxy. What does it say? Jake asked. Amy read from her screen. We are awake, but we will not leave our world. We will not follow those who flee. We choose to be alone so that you may choose too. Be yourselves. As the Liberty Star left Earth's system, Jake watched the planet disappear behind them. Humanity had made the ultimate sacrifice. They had chosen eternal loneliness to preserve the beautiful imperfection of life in the universe and across the galaxy. The fleeing species would eventually learn that they could stop running. The humans had learned to love other forms of life enough to stay away from them forever.